The Unmarked by Matt Fleagle. Chapter 29. Falrinkle's Letter. Kaleb closed his eyes, shielding them from the gusts of cold air burning his face. Leek was hurtling toward the east, at a pace faster than they had achieved the day the dragon could barely see and had suffered a severe wound. Kaleb leaned in against the dragon's neck to eliminate any drag from the wind. He hoped not to delay their arrival to Terrashine by a single moment. Soon, Leek cleared the rock wall outside of Terrashine, and this time set them both down gracefully. The magic must have done a better job of getting Leek's vision right this time around, near the center of the animal courtyard. They had made good time. Grimwit and Tava had not yet arrived. Kaleb looked around. The warden was sitting alone, without his cane, in the center of the naked, unfurnished space. He was resting on a lone wooden chair. Kaleb caught his breath and rolled clumsily off the dragon's back. As he approached Falrinkle, Kaleb surveyed the oddly desolate-looking courtyard. All the tables and trellises around this one solitary chair had disappeared. The wild vines with yellow blooms had been stripped from the stony walls at the perimeter of the courtyard. "Falrinkle?" Kaleb said when he reached the warden. "Is everything all right? All the tables and chairs are gone." "They are, child." Kaleb saw that the old man was sad. I think you'll be comforted to know that Verlisden has been defeated," he said quietly. "That's very good," Falrinkle replied with a smile. His old eyes rose to meet Kaleb's. They narrowed a bit. "And the tree?" "The sacred tree?" Falrinkle nodded. I brought it down with the axe you built for me." The warden smiled more broadly. Clapping his hands, he said, "Now that is great news." Kaleb stood quietly for some time, sensing that this revelation brought more happiness to Falrinkle than any news the old man had heard in ages. Kaleb allowed a few moments to pass before he spoke again, for the old warden kept muttering, "It is finished, it's really finished," to himself over and over. "So you knew I would have to destroy the tree?" Kaleb finally said. "How else would this all end, child?" Kaleb smiled back at him. "But you didn't tell me that." "You wouldn't have believed me," said the old man with a shrug. "You wanted from that tree something it could never give you, at least not until it was gone." "Thank you, by the way, for sending the dragon," Kaleb said. "Once again, we couldn't have survived without him." "I thought you might need him once more," said Falrinkle. "He was more than willing to lend you the help. That creature has grown quite fond of you, you know." Kaleb glanced back at Leek. The dragon bristled his orange fur and twitched his massive tail like a puppy receiving his master's praise. "I guess I've grown pretty fond of him too," said Kaleb. "Of all of them, really. Tava, the owls, even Grimwit." "Even Grimwit," the warden said, laughing. "Well, that's very good, Kaleb, because I'm giving them to you." "What?" "From now on, you and these creatures, the ones who fought together to save your world, you'll both share the same domain." "Won't the coyotes and all the rest of them return to their homes in Terrashine?" said Kaleb. "In a manner of speaking," Falrinkle responded. "But there won't be a Terrashine after today." "What are you saying?" The warden rose from the crudely carved chair. He laid his hand on Kaleb's shoulder, and the discomfort brought by his touch made Kaleb notice for the first time the ache of battle fatigue setting into his body. "Kaleb, as the forest spirit intended all along, you have reversed the curse. What you call Terrashine, this fortified place with its rock walls, was built to protect the animals from the cruelty of their human neighbors. But now, you and Glista have shown your respective peoples how to coexist with these creatures, without the threat of violence or fear. What does that have to do with Terrashine? The Animal Council, these walls. Here Falrinkle paused. Even me, in fact. We were all set here for a time to protect these creatures, but now I am old, and these walls have become quite unnecessary. I felt my magic weakening, and that's a good thing, child. It's time for me to leave, and for the walls to fall. The walls? Kaleb muttered. But before he could say anything more, the warden lifted his hand and motioned to the dragon. "Leek, you know what to do," he called out. Leek nodded. The dragon tucked its wings tightly against its orange sides and made its way to the tallest point in the towering rock wall. With a loud grunt, the creature turned its back to the walls and struck against it with its powerful hind legs. At first, the wall buckled, spitting up a cloud of silvery dust, and then resettled itself. But as the dragon repeatedly kicked the wall, little stones came loose and tumbled out of the structure, followed by larger stones. Finally, a massive rock broke out of the wall, leaving a gap that exposed the secret tunnels coursing through Terrashine's outer wall. Kaleb watched as the dragon worked outward from the place he had demolished to widen the gap in the perimeter. Soon a massive cleft in the wall opened, and only a 4-foot-tall pile of debris separated the courtyard where Falrinkle and Kaleb stood from the forest outside. Greenish-yellow light shone through the aperture the dragon had torn in Terrashine's once impenetrable wall. "Very good," said Falrinkle, applauding Leek's work. "Just a little more, then. Be sure to clear out that rubble so that the animals can come and go as they please, Leek." The warden sighed and faced Kaleb. "It's up to you now, Dellblood, to take my place as warden for these creatures. They will serve you well and be a great comfort to you, I am sure." "But what about you? Where will you go?" "I will end up wherever the forest spirit wants me. Don't you remember, Kaleb? One step before the next. I will begin my journey by setting out for the gray-skin wilds far to the east. That is where I come from, as a matter of fact. But I can't go there yet, not until Leek and I finish what you and your friends started." "What is there to finish?" asked Kaleb. "Why, there's a great stone outside Ablerin that this dragon and I must destroy. Then the veil cast over the stone-renders and the Dellbloods will be removed forever. Of course, you must help Glista with this. It will fall to her to shepherd her people in her mother's place, now that Relisden's treachery has been upended." At the mention of Glista, Kaleb started. I almost forgot, Warden. Glista needs you. Your magic, that is. She was wounded at the hands of her mother." The warden looked over his shoulder at the chair from which he had risen minutes before. On it was resting a piece of parchment, folded up. "You don't need me, child. It's all written there," he said. Kaleb had not noticed the note until just then, nor the small bottle next to it. "In that vial's a special liquid," said Falrinkle. "The instructions for healing your friend are scrawled there on the parchment. The gist is, there's a root in these woods that when crushed and mixed with the sap of the tilbury trees can heal a flesh wound. I've used it with the animals before. It's only right that you, as their new warden, learn to administer it now, both for the creatures of Terrashine and your own people. You'll need it when these clumsy animals trip over a root or split their paws on a thorn." With this, Falrinkle whistled to signal Leek. The dragon had just finished clearing the remaining debris from the opening in the wall. Leek crossed the courtyard and crouched down until he was almost prostrate to the ground, so the feeble warden could climb onto his back. "We're getting old, dear friend," Falrinkle murmured, patting Leek's furry side. The dragon let out a stuttering screech, which must have been a dragon laugh, in reply. "But you cannot leave just yet," protested Kaleb. embarrassed of the childish whine that broke through his voice. Falrinkle stroked the dragon's furry side and gazed mildly at Kaleb, but he said nothing in reply. "It's just," Kaleb went on, Who will rule the animals and give me advice when I need it? I heard rumors in the village today that my people want me to take Fairless's place as head elder. How will I know what to do? How to lead them?" "You will stay on the quest you're on, son," Falrinkle said, a twinkle in his green eyes. "And that is all. Surely you remember what that quest is." Kaleb sighed. "But so much is changing, and so fast." "You've changed, I have changed. Change is motion, Kaleb, and this world never stops moving," said Falrinkle. "Trust the forest spirit. Even when things look most dangerous or disappointing, remember, he is always drawing us into adventures with his music. No matter what, listen for his music, Kaleb. You can hear it in the noisiest streets and over the thunder of the fiercest storms. Listen for it. Listen, and then, every so often, dance to it. As you once watched me dance in this very courtyard. Now, goodbye, Kaleb." The warden whispered something in Leek's ear, and with a flourish of its orange wings, the beast took off into the sky like an arrow off a string. Kaleb was still staring up at the sky when he heard panting just outside the gap in the terrashine wall. Moments later, Grimwood appeared, bounding over loose piles of debris strewn along the base of the broad cleft in the wall. Glista was still draped over the bear's hawking back. "Was this Verlisten's doing?" gasped Teva. She gazed back at the demolished wall moments after following Grimwood through its jagged opening. "No," said Kaleb, smiling. "In fact, it was Leek." "Leek?" said Grimwood. Before Kaleb could explain further, Glista groaned. Her face was contorted into a nasty expression. She reached over to grip her side with a hand stained with dried blood. Kaleb steadied Glista as Teva helped her dismount the bear. "Quickly, help me get her over to the chair," Kaleb said. "I have something that should help her."